Imagine for a moment that you are a very famous prince. You have lived your whole life in giant palaces with dozens of rooms. You have servants who cook your favorite meals, drivers who take you wherever you want to go, and millions of people who know your name. You have traveled the world on private jets and sat down to eat dinner with the most powerful leaders on the planet. You feel like you are special and that nothing can ever touch you. But then, one day, everything begins to change. Suddenly, your own brother, who is now the king, tells you that you have to pack your bags and leave your beautiful mansion. You find yourself moving into a much smaller house on a farm. You aren't allowed to go out and have fun anymore. You can't even go for a ride on your favorite horse. And to make things even crazier, right outside your front window, there is a giant, stinky pile of farm animal poop. This isn't a pretend story from a book or a silly cartoon. This is actually happening to a man named Prince Andrew. He used to be a very big deal, but now he has fallen from grace in a way that is hard to believe. It is a story about how someone can lose everything, and it shows that even a prince has to follow the rules of the land. Today, we are going to look at how Andrew went from being a royal star to living next to a smelly pile of manure. It is a very strange and serious story that shows how much the world has changed for him. There's some very big news that everyone in England and all over the world is talking about this morning. Prince Andrew, who is also known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, has been kicked out of his home. His brother, King Charles, is the one who made him leave. Andrew had been living in a place called the Royal Lodge, but now he has been told he cannot stay there anymore. Sometimes, when someone very important gets into big trouble, it feels like a story that was written for a movie. It seems like the universe is setting things up in a very specific way to show how much things have changed. No writer or storyteller could ever come up with something as wild as what is happening to Andrew right now. He used to be a man who walked onto big stages and talked for the whole country. He was Britain's special helper for trade, which meant he traveled to different countries to help them do business together. He was a man who knew presidents and kings and felt very important. But right now, Andrew is living in a farmhouse on a place called the Sandringham estate. This is a big area of land that belongs to his brother, the king. A news group called GB News has said that it is true. Andrew has moved to a new property on the Sandringham estate. This land belongs to King Charles, but Andrew isn't there just to relax or take a break. He is actually being investigated by the police. They are looking into things he might have done wrong while he was working in his big government jobs. Reports say that he is basically trapped in this house. He is banned from leaving unless someone gives him permission first. This is a very big change for a man who used to go wherever he wanted. He isn't even allowed to go horse riding, which is something he has loved to do for his entire life. If anyone wants to come and see him, they have to be approved by other people first. They can't just stop by for a visit. The police have also finished searching his old house, the Royal Lodge, to see if they could find any evidence or clues about his past actions. The police are looking at Andrew because they think he might have committed a crime called misconduct in public office. This is a fancy way of saying he did something bad or dishonest while he was working for the people. They are specifically looking at his friendship with a man named Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was a very bad person who went to jail for hurting people. Andrew was friends with him for a long time, and now people are asking if he shared secret information with him or helped him in ways he shouldn't have. Because of this, some people in the government are saying Andrew should be taken out of the line of succession. That means his name would be removed from the list of people who could one day become the king. These government leaders are saying that his connection to Epstein is a big stain on the whole country. They think it makes the United Kingdom look very bad to the rest of the world. While all of this serious legal stuff is happening, there is something very funny and strange going on right outside Andrew's house. Directly outside his window, only about 200 yards from his front door, there are enormous piles of manure. If you aren't sure what manure is, it is basically a fancy word for animal poop that farmers use to help their plants grow. It is stacked very high in big piles. It was just put there, and you absolutely cannot miss it. You can see it and you can definitely smell it. The people who live nearby noticed it right away. The people who write for the newspapers noticed it too. And now, almost everyone on the internet is talking about the prince and his piles of poop. It is a very stinky situation for a man who used to live in a palace. But we should remember that this isn't just a silly story about a prince and some smelly farm waste. This is a story about how far a person can fall when they make bad choices. It is a story about how the walls are closing in on Andrew from every side. For a long time, the powerful people in the British government and the royal family protected Andrew. They helped him and kept him safe from trouble. But now, it looks like that big machine has turned its back on him. They aren't helping him anymore. Instead, they are making him move into a smaller house and letting the police investigate him. Every part of this story is more amazing than the last part. It shows that the rules are finally catching up to him, and he has nowhere left to hide. Let's talk about where Andrew is living now versus where he used to live. The difference is huge. For a very long time, Andrew lived in a place called the Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park. That house was massive. It had 30 rooms. Imagine having 30 rooms just for your family. The land around it was perfect and beautiful, with green grass and trees that were always trimmed perfectly. He had a lot of staff to take care of him and plenty of space to do whatever he wanted. Living at Royal Lodge was a way of showing the world that he was a senior member of the royal family. It was a statement. It said that he was important and that he had a high status. Andrew fought very hard to stay in that house. Even when people were angry at him because of the Jeffrey Epstein scandal, he refused to move. He held on to that house as hard as he could, like someone hanging onto a cliff. But he lost that fight. Now he is living at Wood Farm. This is a farmhouse with only 5 bedrooms. While 5 bedrooms might seem like a lot to some people, it is tiny compared to a 30-room mansion. Wood Farm is on the Sandringham estate, which is owned privately by King Charles. This detail is very important. Andrew doesn't own this house. The public doesn't own it. The king owns it. This means the king is the one who decides if Andrew can stay there or not. Wood Farm does have some history. Prince Philip, who was the king's father, lived there after he retired from his royal duties. It was a quiet place where he could spend his final years in peace before he passed away in 2021. It is a nice house, but it is a farmhouse on a working estate. It is a completely different world than the fancy palace life Andrew used to have. So you have to wonder about the power between the two brothers. When a man is forced to move from a 30-room mansion to a 5-bedroom farmhouse owned by his brother, what does that tell you? It tells you that Andrew is no longer in charge of his own life. The king is the one making the big decisions now. This move isn't just about having a different address. It is a sign to the whole world that Andrew's status has dropped. In the royal family, symbols and signs are very important. Moving Andrew to a smaller house is a way of telling everyone that he is no longer a top-tier royal. It is a very loud message that things will never be the same for him again. Now we have to talk about something even more serious, the arrest. Andrew was actually arrested by the police. Think about how crazy that is. He is the son of the late Queen Elizabeth and the brother of King Charles. He was a senior royal for most of his life, but he was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. He spent 11 hours in a police station being questioned. And get this, it happened on his 66th birthday. Imagine spending your whole birthday sitting in a police station instead of having a party with cake and presents. That is an incredibly serious thing to happen to anyone, but especially to a member of the royal family. There is a famous photo of Andrew leaving the police station in a car. In the photo, he isn't sitting up straight like he usually does at parades or fancy events. Instead, he is slouched down in the backseat. He looks tired and defeated. That one picture has been seen by thousands of people all over the world. It has become a symbol of his new life. He no longer looks like a proud prince. He looks like someone who is in a lot of trouble. The things the police are asking about are very bad. They are looking at the time when he was a special representative for trade. This was a job he had for 10 years, from 2001 to 2011. The police think he might have given secret and sensitive information to Jeffrey Epstein during that time. There is that name again, Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein has been a dark shadow over Andrew's life for a long time. People have always wondered why a prince would be friends with such a bad man. Andrew tried to explain it in a famous TV interview a few years ago, but he did a very bad job. Instead of making things better, the interview made things much worse. People were confused and angry by the things he said. Now his connection to Epstein isn't just a story in a magazine. It is the reason the police are doing a criminal investigation. We have to be fair and say that Andrew has not been charged with a crime yet. In our legal system, everyone is innocent until a court proves they are guilty. An arrest is not the same thing as being guilty. But the fact that the police are even looking at him this closely is a very big deal. This brings us back to the farmhouse and the stinky manure outside. Let's talk about that poop again. About 10 days before Andrew moved into Wood Farm, people saw workers unloading giant piles of manure from a tractor. They put it on the ground very close to the house. Now, to be fair, this is a very normal thing to do on a farm. Manure helps the dirt stay healthy so that trees and plants can grow big and strong. If you live in the country, you see this all the time. It is a normal part of farming. There is no proof that anyone put the manure there just to be mean to Andrew. It was probably just part of the regular work on the estate. But the timing is what makes it so interesting. Andrew had just been arrested and moved into a smaller house. And then, as soon as he got there, he was greeted by the smell of animal waste. The people who live in the area noticed it right away, and they had some funny things to say about it. One neighbor told a reporter that Andrew has had a whiff of scandal for a long time, so it made sense that he was now smelling the smells of the farm. Another person pointed out that King Charles owns the land, so he is the boss of whatever happens there. Some people even joked that maybe the king was trying to send his brother a message with the smelly piles. Whether it was an accident or not, it looks very bad for Andrew. Imagine being in his shoes. You've lost your big house, you've been arrested on your birthday, and you aren't allowed to go out without a guard. You can't even ride your favorite horse. And now there are huge, stinky piles of poop right down the street from your front door. It feels like a giant metaphor for his life. A metaphor is when one thing stands for another thing. In this case, the messy, smelly farm life stands for the messy, difficult situation Andrew is in. People are laughing because the situation is so strange and perfect in a dark way. It feels like the world is playing a joke on him. What did you think when you first heard about the manure? It's hard not to have a strong reaction to a story like that. Now let's look at the rules Andrew has to follow at his new home. These rules are very strict. According to reports, he has been given a list of things he cannot do. One of the biggest ones is that he isn't allowed to go horse riding. This might not seem like a big deal to you, but for Andrew, it is huge. He has been riding horses his whole life. It was one of the last things he had left from his old royal life. When he lived at his big mansion, he rode horses all the time, and photographers often took pictures of him doing it. By telling him he can't ride, the people in charge are taking away one of the last things that made him feel like a prince. But the other rules are even more serious. He reportedly cannot leave the Sandringham estate without asking for permission and having someone go with him. Think about that for a second. This is a grown man who used to travel all over the world and meet with the leaders of different countries. He used to be a high-ranking naval officer. And now, he can't even go to the store or take a walk outside the estate without someone watching him. Any visitors who want to see him have to be approved ahead of time. He is living a life that is very much like being in a golden cage. He has a nice house, but he isn't free. The big question is, who is making these rules? Are they coming from King Charles? Are they coming from the people who give advice to the royals? Or are they coming from the police? We don't know for sure, but whoever is making them has a lot of power over Andrew. It shows that he has very little control over his own life anymore. He is being managed by other people. This is a total reversal of how his life used to be. He used to be the one giving orders, and now he is the one who has to follow them. It is a very big change, and it must be very hard for him to deal with. While Andrew is staying at the farmhouse, the police have been busy at his old home, the Royal Lodge. They spent several days searching through the house. The police don't spend days searching a house unless they have a very good reason. They must have been looking for something specific. They might have been looking for papers, computers, or other things that could help them with their investigation. The police haven't told us what they found, but the fact that they spent so much time there shows that they are being very serious and careful. They are looking for the truth, and they are being very methodical about it. Think about how it must feel to have the police searching your home. That was the place Andrew fought so hard to keep. It was his last connection to his old life. And now, strangers were going through all the rooms and looking at all his things. It is a very powerful symbol. It shows that even his private home is no longer safe from the investigation. If you were Andrew, sitting in that farmhouse and knowing the police were searching your old palace, what would you be thinking? You would probably be very worried about what they might find. The weight and the not knowing must be a very difficult kind of punishment. Even the people in Parliament are talking about Andrew now. Parliament is where the leaders of the country make the laws. A government minister named Sir Chris Bryant stood up and said some very harsh things about Andrew. He called him rude, arrogant, and entitled. Those are very strong words to use about a member of the royal family. He said Andrew was always trying to make himself look more important and make more money for himself. He said Andrew couldn't tell the difference between doing what was good for the country and doing what was good for himself. This is a very big deal because these words are now part of the official record of the government. Sir Chris Bryant also talked about Jeffrey Epstein. He said that there were many wealthy and powerful people who let bad things happen because they were greedy or because they thought they were too important to follow the rules. He said that the people who were hurt by Epstein deserved to know the truth. These aren't just rumors from a gossip magazine. These are the words of a high-ranking government leader. It shows that the political protection Andrew once had is gone. In the past, people in the government wouldn't have been so direct in their criticism of a prince. But now, it seems like the rules have changed, and people are allowed to say exactly what they think. The government has also agreed to release some secret files about Andrew's time as a trade envoy. These files might show what he was doing and who he was meeting with during those years. However, some of the files are being kept secret for now because the police say they need them for their investigation. This tells us that the police investigation is very real. If it were just a small thing, they wouldn't need to keep the files secret. The fact that they are withholding information shows that they are working on something important. We might not know what is in those files for a while, but the fact that they exist is a sign that the investigation has a clear direction. There was also a very important visitor who went to see Andrew at the farmhouse. His name is Richard Benyon, and he is the Lord Chamberlain. The Lord Chamberlain is a very high-ranking official who works for the king. He doesn't just go to farmhouses to have a friendly chat. He's a very serious man with a very serious job. He spent 2 hours talking to Andrew. People are wondering what they discussed for 2 whole hours. Some think they were talking about taking Andrew's name out of the line of succession. Andrew is currently 8th in line to the throne. Even though he will never actually be the king, being on that list is a big honor. Taking him off the list would be a huge punishment. To take someone out of the line of succession, the government would have to pass a new law. This almost never happens. It would be a historic event that would be reported all over the world. It would be the final way for the royal family and the government to say that they are done with Andrew. They wouldn't just be limiting his power, they would be cutting him off completely. The Lord Chamberlain's visit shows that something big is being planned. It wasn't a casual meeting. It was a formal visit to discuss something very important. We will have to wait and see what happens, but it seems like a new and final chapter is beginning for Andrew. We should also think about Andrew's daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie. They are the silent victims in this whole story. They haven't done anything wrong. They didn't choose their father and they didn't make his choices for him. But now, they are the ones who have to deal with the consequences. People are looking at them differently because of their dad. Reports say that they aren't going to as many public events anymore. Their reputations have been hurt just because they are related to Andrew. Some people even say they are being kept away from big royal events like the horse races at Ascot. Think about how that feels in human terms. These are 2 women in their 30s who are trying to live their own lives. They are raising their own children and trying to have careers. But now, doors are being closed to them because of their father's scandal. They are innocent, but they are still being punished. This is a very sad part of the story. Andrew has some control over what he does, but his daughters are caught in the middle of a situation they didn't create. It shows how a scandal can hurt many people, not just the person at the center of it. It's a reminder that our choices can have big effects on the people we love. The public's opinion of Andrew is also very low. In the United Kingdom, most people do not have any sympathy for him. They have watched the news and seen the interviews, and most of them have made up their minds. The court of public opinion is very different from a real court of law. In public opinion, people decide what they believe based on what they see and hear in the media. For Andrew, the turning point was that TV interview in 2019. The things he said about not being able to sweat or being at a pizza restaurant as an alibi didn't make sense to people. It made them think he wasn't being honest. Andrew also paid a lot of money to settle a lawsuit with a woman named Virginia Giaffer. He didn't admit that he did anything wrong, but the fact that he paid millions of dollars made many people think he had something to hide. So, when the story about the manure came out, many people laughed. They didn't laugh because they are mean, but because the situation felt like a strange kind of justice. Even though nothing has been proven in court, people feel like Andrew is finally facing some kind of consequence for his actions. But it also raises a tough question. Is it fair to punish someone before a court has found them guilty? This is a very hard question to answer. Some people think that the restrictions on Andrew and the harsh words from Parliament are going too far. They think that everyone deserves a fair trial before they are punished. But others think that Andrew has had a privileged life for a long time and that he finally needs to be held accountable. Justice isn't always simple or clean. Sometimes it feels more like punishment than a fair process. These are the kinds of things that make this story so complicated and interesting to think about. There are no easy answers, but it is important to think about what is fair and what is right. One thing is for sure, the big institutional machine has turned against Andrew. For a long time, the system protected him. They tried to manage the scandal and keep the royal family's reputation safe. But now that has changed. The energy is different. The words from Parliament are blunt and honest. The police investigation is out in the open. The secret files are being looked at. The Lord Chamberlain is making personal visits. It seems like the people in power have decided that it is too expensive and too difficult to keep protecting Andrew. They have decided that he needs to face the consequences of his actions. When big institutions like the monarchy or the government make a decision like this, they don't do it halfway. They are very thorough and very relentless. They will follow the process until it is finished. Andrew seems to understand this because he has been very quiet. He hasn't said anything since he was arrested. He hasn't given any interviews or posted anything on social media. This silence is very loud. It shows that he knows he is in a very serious situation. The man who once thought he could talk his way out of anything is now staying completely silent. So what happens next? The investigation will continue, and we will find out if Andrew will face any criminal charges. He could be cleared, or he could be in even more trouble. Every outcome will have a big impact on the royal family and the country. The question of whether he will be taken out of the line of succession is also being discussed. If that happens, it will be a major moment in history. We will also learn more when the secret files are released. There is still a lot that we don't know, but we will find out more as time goes on. In the meantime, Andrew stays in his farmhouse on the farm. He waits, he follows the rules, and he smells the countryside from his window. History doesn't always work out in such a poetic way, but when it does, it usually means something important is happening. We are watching a major event unfold in real time. It is a story about power, about rules, and about what happens when the most important people in the world are finally held accountable for what they do. It's a story that reminds us that no matter who you are, your choices have consequences. Whatever you think about Prince Andrew, this is a story that is worth watching. It isn't just about the manure or the smelly poop, although that is a funny part of it. It's a story about how our society works and how we deal with people who have a lot of power. It's about a man who had everything and made choices that led him to a very different kind of life. Whether or not he is found guilty in a court, his life has already changed forever. The chapter of his life where he was a protected prince is over. A new, much more difficult chapter has begun. I will be keeping an eye on this story and telling you about any new things that happen. There is definitely more to come. Make sure you stay tuned and think about these big questions. Do you think Andrew will face charges? Do you think he should stay in the line of succession? And what do you think about that manure? Was it just an accident or was it a sign? This story has many layers and it is far from finished. It is a fascinating and serious look at how the world works, and I am glad you are here to think about it with me. See you in the next one.